Thank you very much for inviting me to the intimate, and useful, fruitful conference. It's the first time for me to come to Bulgaria, and I have a nice time since the beginning of this conference. Thank you very much. Today I talk about organic compounds synthesized after the flow of pure tap and seawaters through micro-orifices. It's a little bit different from the subject in the program. The content is the same. Introduction. Flow of water through fine holes is important in modern fluid mechanics because of its many potential industrial and biological applications. However, the flow is not fully understood yet. In previous work, when passing ultra pure water, UPW, in which air was dissolved UPW asterisk through micro-orifices, we found that the flow velocity decreased and stopped over time, and membranes were frequently formed in the orifice when the flow stopped. In the current study, we clarified the components of membrane and suggested a membrane for the mechanism for membrane formation. This figure shows a schematic of experimental setup for measuring flow rate and pressure in an orifice. Pressure was given as the difference between water heads of vessel and cap. The head was varied by changing the height of the vessel. Orifice was installed in the orifice mount, which was connected to vessel and cap. This slide shows orifice mount. The orifice was sandwiched between fluorocarbon rubber sheets. This slide shows velocity v meter per second against elapsed time t hours for each pressures p Pascal for UPW asterisk in the NY nickel orifice. The pressures 100 Pascal, 500 Pascal, and 10,000 Pascal were given at each pass. The pressure were released between one pass and the next pass. This shows the example of one pass, and this is the next pass. Then no pressure was given between the one pass to the next pass. We see V decreased with T and finally become zero, as shown like this line. Membranes were often formed in the orifice in this case. This is the image of phase contrast microscope image of membrane from UPW asterisk. This is the orifice and this is the membrane. A mosaic-like state is seen in the membrane. This figure shows mapping images by EPMA, membrane from the NY20 orifice. 20 means the diameter of the orifice, 20 micrometer, and UPW asterisk. NYCNOKP are observed, but NaCaCl are below the detection level. White crescent is seen due to the shadow of the characteristic X-rays except N1, because the position of the membrane is deeper than the orifice surface, as shown in the next slide. This slide shows the schematic of the membrane. Membrane of nickel Ny is in the same level with the level of orifice surface, but the membrane consisting of CNOPK exists in a deeper position in the orifice. Then we examine possible sources of the membrane material. The first one is leaking from the acrylic resin of the experimental apparatus. The second possible sources is organic matter originally present in the water. The third one is air dissolved in water. The first one, leaching from acrylic resin. We replaced acrylic resin by fluorocarbon or silica glass and obtained data of no difference with those of acrylic resin. This fact shows that leaching from acrylic resin cannot be the source. One of the second. This table shows the probability of membrane formation, M by N. Small character n means the number of the formation of the number of the experiment in which the formation was generated, and n is the total number of the experiment. We see the UPW asterisk ultra pure water contained here. The case n by n is larger than the tap water. That is probability of membrane formation n by n is larger in UPW asterisk, which contains less organic compounds than in tap water, which contains more organic compounds. This table shows the chemical composition of UPW asterisk membrane and UPW asterisk itself, and the tap water membrane and the tap water itself. Let me see these columns. This is the membrane from UPW asterisk, and this is the UPW itself. As seen from this column, C is higher in the membrane rather than in UPW asterisk. And the similar trend is seen for N. And for tap water, the trend is the similar phenomena is seen. This result shows that the membrane was not generated simply by the accumulation of the element in water. Then, as seen above in table 1 and 2, organic matter originally present in the water cannot be the source of membrane formation. The third possibility is dissolved air. We removed the dissolved air from UPW asterisk. Asterisk shows the UPW containing air by de-aeration treatment, B and C in the next slide, or AR bubbling, D in the next slide. And also, we used the UPW 0. 0 means the UPW prevented from making air contact after getting UPW from ultra pure water maker. E is the next slide. And UPW0 bubbled with argon gas. F in the next slide. This figure shows the effect of de-aeration and air bubbling. As seen from this figure, n by n, the probability of membrane formation is decreased by some treatment or by air bubbling, and like this, decrease. This fact shows that the dissolved air is not a source of membrane formation, we think. Then we examined the UPW asterisk membrane by Raman and IR spectra. This figure shows Raman shift of UPW asterisk membrane. We see three sharp peaks, and main peaks at 100 and 1,000, 1,150, and 1,510 centimeter inverse shows characteristic of carotenoids, which have a linear chain-like conjugated carbon backbone consisting of alternating carbon single CC and double bond CC. This figure shows IR spectrum for the UPW asterisk membrane. We see several organic compounds shown by the arrows. Then next, we examined the water by irradiation with UV light. For eliminating the organic compounds which may be left in the UPW asterisk, we irradiated UPW asterisk with UV light, possessing main wavelengths of 185 and 254 nanometers. Confirming the effectiveness of UV irradiation, we did preliminary experiments, but not shown here. This figure shows a PCM image of a membrane from UPW asterisk, which was shown before, and B, membrane from UPW asterisk irradiated with UV. The images A and B are similar and probably show the same components of membrane. This figure shows the Raman shift for the membrane from UV irradiated UPW asterisk. Three peaks are also shown, and these three peaks show carotenoid as shown for UPW asterisk in figure 6.8. This figure shows IR spectrum for the membrane from UV irradiated UPW asterisk. Many organic compounds are found, peaks of organic compounds are seen and shown by their arrows. Consequently, we could not find great differences between UPW asterisk and UV irradiated UPW asterisk for PCM images, Raman, and IR spectra. The next, we made CO2 gas dissolved instead of air into UPW0 and performed flow experiment. We also made seawater flow through orifices. This is a PCM images of images of membrane from UPW asterisk, B, membrane from UPW asterisk, irradiated with UV, and C, a membrane from UPW0, bubbled with CO2, and D, a membrane from seawater. We see C and D are different from A and B. This shows the Raman shift for membrane from UPW, 0 bubbled with CO2. This spectrum differs from that for the membrane from UPW asterisk. Two mild peaks may indicate carboxylic acid salt. This figure shows IR spectrum for the membrane from UPW0 bubbled with CO2. This spectrum differs from that for the membrane from UPW asterisk. These results show that UPW0 into which CO2 gas was injected and seawater generated different kinds of membranes from those of UPW asterisk and UV irradiated UPW asterisk. Furthermore, to examine the effect of electric charge on membrane formation, we grounded the orifice plate. The result is shown in the next slide. This figure shows the effect of electrically grounded the orifice. Prime shows electric grounding. That is vertical coordinate means probability of membrane formation, and horizontal coordinate shows that black is the formation n by n obtained by no grounding, but gray shows the grounding. Then we see grounding decreases the n by n value like this. Then, therefore, electric charges are related to membrane formation, we think. At this stage, we see, we want to say summary of experimental result obtained. The flow through micro-orifices decreased and stopped with elapsed time. 2, membrane was formed in the orifice. 3, source of membrane formation was the air dissolved in water. 4, membrane contained several organic compounds. 5, irradiation of UV light gave little effect on membrane formation. 6, membrane formation was related to electric charges in the orifice. Then next we want to discuss the mechanism of membrane formation from the viewpoint of production and work of its radicals. But we should mention that charges are negative or positive or negative at the orifice. And we did experiment about the did experiment to examine whether the charges are negative or positive, but I don't talk about the experiment. Only the result is that charges shows charges are negative. Then we think like this. flow wraps the orifice wall, strips electrons from the wall, and carries them downstream of the orifice. And consequently, positive charges are excess in the orifice. Then the excess positive charges in the orifice lead to generation of hydroxy radicals by oxidation of water, shown by this process. And the generation of formic acid, this is a formic acid, by the reaction of hydroxy radicals and carbon oxide, as shown by this process. The organic matter will be produced by formic acid. This shows the process by which formic acid is produced. This figure shows the process by which reactive nitrogen is produced. Positive charge dominant range is realized as seen before, and excess positive charges in the orifice lead to generation of hydroxy radicals by oxidation of water, similar as I said before, like this, and the generation of reactive nitrogen by the reaction of hydroxy radicals and nitrogen. This is hydroxy radicals. Conclusion. We suggest that organic compounds are synthesized from non-organic matter in air or CO2 dissolved in water by the action of hydroxy radicals generated by flows through micro-orifices. For more details, see the articles. Thank you for your attention.
Arigato.
Domo.
Thank you very much for your detailed
You're
information. Yeah, very, very nice, especially the last conclusion. I'm sure there are some questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that interesting presentation. So I wonder if you have ever considered an unorthodox kind of interpretation. And I'm reminded of the work by Louis Kervran, who studied transmutation. And of course, we all think transmutation of elements is impossible. But Kervran's book demonstrated many examples. And he thought in his book that the transmutations are somehow involved with water, because many of the transmutations are either plus or minus 1 in atomic number or plus or minus 8 in atomic number. And so he thought that water was somehow involved. And so when I see your results and I see in the narrow orifice that the orifice gets plugged, we see almost the same thing in Nafion tubes, that we find an exclusion zone builds inside the tubes. And on some occasion, the tubes becomes completely clogged and nothing will flow through. It's full of easy water. So I'm wondering whether it's possible that easy water is formed, in your case, plugging the orifices. And the easy water has energy in it. The energy is come from the environment, from particularly infrared radiation from the environment. So there's a lot of potential energy. And I'm wondering whether it's possible that this potential energy is driving transmutation, which then gives rise to all of these organic elements that you're seeing. I wonder if you've ever considered such a possibility.
Thank you very much. Very useful comments. Yeah. I tried already similar flow experiment by using multipolymer multi-holes polymer membrane, and almost the same results is obtained. Yeah, probably it's not only the metal, yeah, but also for polymers is useful.
Any,
a very brief comment. Your results are in perfect agreement with the fact that when we perturb water, remember our presentation, we find that the liquid perturbed using many different methods contains organic compounds, and this organic compound have some properties of biological compound, like as dichromes, circular dichromes, fluorescent spectra, and other. Thank you very much for this relation.
Thank you very much for your comments, and you're welcome. Thank you very much.
any more questions? No? Well, again, thank you very much.
Maybe one. Okay.
Hands on.